Hey, good afternoon to you. 5:06 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. President Trump wrapped up another day in court today in New York and is now visiting with the NYPD, the fire department in New York as well. Another campaign stop. All captured on cameras being disseminated around the country. His campaign's been going really well. In fact, all these surveys indicating that he's doing very well in the swing states. Those leads are only growing. Joe Biden's in a full-blown self-immolation right now, politically speaking. Not talking about those Hamas guys, although they're part of the reason why he's immolating. For more on what's going on with the election and the way the Biden administration itself is meddling in it, let's take a closer look. Now, Colin Aamot is here. He's an investigator, for Heritage's Oversight project, the Heritage Foundation. Joins us now. Hello, Colin.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Really, really appreciate you being on. So you have been digging into what the federal government is up to and the way it interacts with our election. I remember this executive order from the early days of the Biden administration, where he comes out and he says he wants every agency of the federal government to start registering people to vote. And for most of us, from the outside, you look at that and you go, wait a second, this is a scheme. This is a left-wing election scheme. He's using American taxpayer dollars to do it. What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, this is very clearly a mobilization of federal resources to conduct selective partisan-based voter mobilization. And beyond that, really what we're looking at is a lot of unknowns at this point. Now, we're not saying we can't clarify this, but really what we're looking at is that the EO is soliciting and facilitating approved nonpartisan third-party organizations to provide voter registration services on agency premises. Now, really what this means is that the federal government is giving unfettered access to these third-party organizations. So they're granting them access to federal resources, and we don't even know what the criteria is for approval to participate under this EO, right? Mm-hmm. So what we see really at the underlying listening session is that all of these organizations are far left. Everybody has far left donation histories, far left voting histories, and really participation in lawfare. And what I mean by that is these same exact organizations are also either actively or formerly involved in litigation, either against voter ID policies or Trump admin policies regarding similar topics as well.
So some of these organizations, as you point out, if you're opposed to voter ID, you're opposed to election integrity. And so the Biden administration is partnering with organizations that have been attacking election integrity, and they consider this normal or allowable.
Exactly. And really what we've seen is they are really trying to exert presidential communications privileges and other redactions to withhold a lot of the underlying documents. So we're getting really aggressive here and FOIAing literally every agency to disclose the underlying documents on this executive order. Now,
so in other words, they're keeping it secret. They're trying to keep secret the machinations of the federal government as it ramps up towards the election.
Exactly. So if this was above board, really what we would see is transparency. And so I'd really just highlight that is that they are fighting this in court in multiple lawsuits to withhold the strategic plans for EO 14019 and everything subsequent as well. So we're really going after, what criteria is there for these nonpartisan, quote unquote, third party organizations to participate? Because, what was really notably absent was any sort of right of center groups at these listening sessions. Really, when you talk about this EO, it really is just, far leftist organizations coming in and taking over federal resources.
So I've been seeing survey after survey, this year especially, that indicates that among Americans who are not registered to vote, that they are wildly supportive of Donald Trump, that there's a majority support among unregistered Americans for Trump. And as a result, just as a statistical matter, if you were to register 100 random people who have never registered to vote, that's going to give Trump an advantage. Last month, there was a report in the Washington Post that this is causing a panic among Democrats, that they're confused about what they should do, and they may be trying to back off on voter registration efforts for fear that they could get Trump elected by actually registering people to vote. What are you seeing?
Well, I would say look at the demographics of who they're registering. They're going after prison populations, populations that are dependent on federal benefits. And on the flip side of that, you don't see them reaching out to populations such as the Amish, right? So really what you're seeing is a very selective, targeted voter registration and mobilization scheme that really targets select demographics. And so once again, if this was truly above board, there would be conservative or right of center groups participating in that, and we don't even know what the criteria are at this point to participate under this executive order.
Okay. The other piece is that you can kind of imagine that as a strategic matter, that like if the federal government says, oh, we're just registering people to vote who deal with the federal government a lot, well, you kind of presume that that means people who are more government dependent are going to be the people with a lot of access to these voter registration efforts. Is that a fair assumption?
To some degree, but it's also targeted. In some of the email traffic we got back and including in the documents released, they were thinking about tying them physically to food distribution sites, right? So Samantha Kelty of the Native American Rights Fund literally made the comment of food distribution sites could be helpful, quote unquote. So
what does that mean? Like is that for just like if somebody's poor and can't afford food, they're going to pick it up, they're getting it from government assistance, that's where they want to do voter registration drives?
Exactly. And so therefore you're tying together federal benefits potentially with voter registration, which doesn't, a service level appear above board from the get-go.
Got it. All right. So as we barrel towards Election Day, the current status is that most of this is being kept secret. I would assume that includes how much federal taxpayer money is being spent on this as well.
Exactly. So we have submitted multiple rounds of FOIAs targeting all of the underlying documentation. And at this point, we're also going after how much each agency is actually spending on this, particular executive order as well.
And then as far as the White House is concerned, have they said anything else about this since the executive order?
They have completely refused to comment on it in generality. And they are currently, as I said earlier, fighting this in court to, negate the release of documents as well.
Well, that goes right to the point you made before, which is that if this was above board and it was something they were proud of, they'd be talking about it every day. Karine Jean-Pierre would be bringing it up in the White House press briefing, but they've decided to not discuss it at all.
So really what we saw, too, was we have email traffic from the Office of Special Counsel literally vetting get out the vote language from several press conferences and speeches. And so really they're very tightly skirting the line on what would constitute Hatch Act violations throughout this as well. So
sorry. So the language itself when you look at the language that they're using for get out the vote efforts, does it pretty clearly scream, "Hey, if you're a Democrat, then register to vote"?
Well, that's why they're asking the special counsel to review their written and verbal speeches before they're giving them, so that they don't run afoul of Hatch Act. But in that context, they're very keenly aware of the implications of crossing that line.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm grateful you're out there digging into this. It means a lot for the country, and hopefully you can get some more answers soon. Just keep suing those guys. Would you please do that, Colin?
We'll get after it.
All right. Thanks, man. Colin Aamot over at the Heritage Foundation digging in on the election and the way Biden's meddling in it right now. I really appreciate him today. On the issue of the election, I played some audio for you a moment ago of frat bros at Ole Miss all chanting that they want Trump, which is one of my favorite pieces of audio. They're chanting in the faces of all the commies who are taking over their campus. And now I have another piece of audio here of the same guys. These are just, I don't know if they're technically in a frat. They look fratty. I'll just say that. And here they are singing the Star Spangled Banner. Take a listen. I'll tell you up front, It's not a great rendition, but somehow it still brings a tear to your eye. How good is that? So they're being separated. There's like police standing between them and the commies on the other side, and the commies all have masks on. All of them. They're wearing masks. Their heads are bowed in shame. They're holding their Stop Genocide signs, their Palestinian flags, and you've got these enthusiastic young Americans all singing the Star Spangled Banner opposite them, having a great time. And the camera that on the video that I just saw pans past the crowd of young men. And as it's coasting through the crowd, there's a guy with a shirt on, a white shirt, and on it says, "I hate terrorists." And just so you know, there are American flags being hoisted into the air too. The crowd holding the American flags up. Do you feel like this is the beginning of something bigger? Do you get that sense? We saw it this week. You know, the UNC Chapel Hill guys kind of leading the way there a bit. You know, protecting the American flag from the mob, and that fundraiser, in case you were curious about the totals here, is now at, well, let me just refresh it to verify the number now. Yeah, it's gone up by another $1,000 since the last time I checked it just a few moments ago. $458,814 right now, and a couple of donations just over $10,000 apiece, including from the billionaire Bill Ackman, who came in yesterday and gave these guys a bunch of money to throw a rager. And now I'm seeing was it John Rich? There's conservative artists who are now getting in touch with these guys. They're ready to throw concerts for them and everything. So Americans are coming together here, to stand up for the country. Kind of cool. And the things we believe in. You know, over at Tablet Magazine today, they've got a big story up about the frats, the fraternities across the country who are standing up for the country now, for the United States, defending the American flag, all these great stories. And they're saying, you know, it's amazing that this is happening because is there any group of students on college campus who are more demonized than fraternities these days? The left has spent endless energy attacking toxic masculinity and Greek culture and fraternities. They love crapping on fraternities. Tablet Magazine says there's a certain irony in the outpouring of appreciation for the bros, especially at elite schools where the encampments have been most persistent. Fraternities have faced university-driven witch hunts aimed at eliminating their presence on campuses. The anti-frat crusade, which features a questionable judicial process led by antagonistic university bureaucrats hired to promote DEI initiatives, is troubling enough before you consider its glaring hypocrisy in the face of the ongoing protests. Universities that now treat the smallest fraternity infractions as grounds for immediate and sometimes harsh limitation, including accidentally setting off smoke alarms with a candle to turning in party permit applications an hour late, are now very publicly allowing disruptive and even aggressive encampments to persist despite their deliberate violations of policy, making the school's double standards for the application of rules and the distribution of consequences abundantly clear. Well, yeah, I mean, this makes sense. The reason campuses are allowing the commies to smash their way into buildings and occupy areas of campus and spray paint Free Palestine all over the walls of the campus and then trash the quad and leave garbage everywhere. The reason they're abiding all of this is because these are all creatures of the left. It's as simple as that. And it's been stoked by the faculty at so many of these institutions. They're supportive. Heck, Columbia, that's where you had teachers, instructors, professors, whatever you call them, linking arms, trying to, we're going to blockade. And so everyone's so pathetic, you know. They're totally pathetic. They're not going to stop anybody. One cop can move his way through that crowd. They don't even need a group of people. One dude, they'll make it right through. But they're going really easy on these kids. They're letting them happen. I say kids, you know what I mean. That's where they are mentally, but they're adults, young adults. And they're just letting them get away with it. But a frat, A candle sets off a fire alarm, as Tablet points out. All of a sudden, full-blown investigation into the fraternity. Maybe it's time to disband the fraternity. I don't know if that's a real story, by the way. Do frats usually light candles? It's more of a sorority thing, I thought. I don't know if it's quite so much a fraternity thing. We're turning in a party permit application an hour late. Sorry, no party, frat. No party. It's the latest and most visible example of a frustrating trend in campus culture in which elite universities pander to a small minority of progressive students at the expense of the students who simply want to enjoy a normal college experience, which involves things like frat parties, university traditions, and joy. Joy. I like that that's in the list. And have found their social lives increasingly restricted at every turn. At Cornell University, a third of the student body belongs to Greek life, and frat parties are a major part of the social scene, largely because there is effectively nothing else to do in Ithaca, New York on a Saturday night. But their social centrality means little to the university administration, which has been waging a determined war on frats for years, wielding an arsenal of nitpicky, draconian, and sometimes openly unfair policies to keep fraternities in a near-perpetual state of punishment. At Cornell, the school uses an anonymous reporting system in which anybody can submit a complaint against a frat, even people who don't attend the university, which can then become near immediate grounds for a formal investigation where the fraternity may very likely be suspended. Meanwhile, the anti-Israel mob chanting on behalf of Hamas, smashing their way into buildings, ruining everything. Consequences? Where's the reporting line? You say that you have outsiders who do reports. Oh, that's only for frats. So I can't call a phone line right now and tell you what's happening? Your campus is going to hell, and it's because of the commies. Do something about it. Sorry, this is the wrong line. Just for the frats. Stay with us. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. UCLA is the site of a lot of the chaos here. And there's a fella who has a TikTok account, so long as TikTok still exists in America. His name is Daddy Milagro. Daddy Milagro. And he's walking around inside of the UCLA encampment, interviewing all of the mask wearers. And none of them have any idea what they're talking about. They don't like being filmed. They want to do a public protest, but they don't want any individualized coverage of them. And it's created some great video moments here. Listen to some of this. I love some of this audio.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that?
You're not allowed to film in here.
By what statute? By what California statute? The First Amendment?
By the rules of the encampment.
Okay, so who's making those and enforcing those?
The SJP.
The SJP is telling me what I can and can't do.
So he's saying, I can't film you? According to what law? What are you talking about? The First Amendment? What are you saying? According to the encampment.
Well, in the encampment.
Huh?
To be in the encampment, you have to follow.
And the reason his voice is so hard to hear is because he's got a stupid COVID mask on, which doesn't even work.
So you guys purchased this land from UCLA?
No,
Lydia, get over here right now. You purchased this land from UCLA?
Security.
Lydia, do you hear what I just said? You need to stay next to me because these punk security guards is in my face. Oh, for real?
No, right here.
Oh, this way?
No, this way.
Oh, come on, Lydia, get over here.
Please head this way.
Get over here, Lydia.
Can you please just head this way? Sir?
Nah, I'd rather head this way.
So
Sorry.
you're causing commotion. We're trying to keep it
nah.
peaceful.
You're causing commotion. We're just trying to keep the peace.
Sorry, I'd rather head this way. Thanks, sir.
We're trying to keep it peaceful here.
So am I. I'm a very peaceful person.
Can you please just?
No, I'd rather head this way.
We're trying to keep it peaceful by blocking your free movement. That's that's perfectly airtight logic. More from UCLA's Daddy Milagro.
I was against censorship. When they try to take out explicit materials from kids' schools and stuff like that, then y'all are against censorship. But now when a student wants to record, suddenly you're wearing masks, you're wearing sunglasses, you're hiding your face, you're trying to censor people's freedoms and rights. Like, man, y'all are a very confused group of people, man. Is this SJP giving y'all these rules?
I like that. Remember that guy we played earlier this week? He said, "You're all very mentally ill." He's like, yeah, many of you have no idea what gender you are. You are all mentally ill.
This SJP.
You're free to leave.
I am. because I'm a U.S. citizen, so I'm free to do anything I want. That's the cool thing about being a U.S. citizen. When you work hard and get into UCLA, see, I got my GED in prison. So that means less than 1% of us will ever get any college degree. I'm getting a college degree from UCLA, the #1 public university in the nation.
Wow.
So I'm free to go anywhere on this campus I want. You can hold up all your sweaters. Whoop, let's see if we can see under there. Uh-oh.
And so okay, this is a great moment. So this girl wearing a mask. They're all wearing masks. She's holding up like a hooded sweatshirt or a sweater or something, trying to block his camera. And he goes, "Oh, you can hold up your sweaters all you want." So he takes his camera and he starts whipping it underneath the sweater to point at her face. Whoop, there we go. Whoop, there we go. He's like moving the camera all around, and they don't know what to do. And it's funny, I watched a couple of this guy's videos, and one of them he points out, he goes, they have no idea what to do with him because he's a black guy. And these are like white lefties who they've been taught that there's like an oppression structure that they're supposed to recognize and abide by. And he's walking around just making fools of all of them. And they don't know how to handle it. They have no idea. They're like, oh. And sometimes he says what happens is like he'll say something, he'll talk about Trump or any of these guys, and they'll act as if he's ignorant. Like, don't you know that they're racist? They'll say stuff like that to him. And he thinks it's hilarious. He thinks it's the best. And I totally agree with him. So good for him. He's out there taunting these guys, filming them. He's like, you can hold your sweater up.
Go anywhere on this campus I want. You can hold up all your sweaters. Whoop, let's see if we can see under there. Uh-oh. Whoa. Let's go over here.
So that's a lot of fun. So those are some of the more peaceful moments and amusing ones. Of course, there's also lots of destruction going on. And, Al Sharpton doesn't like it. Reverend Al Sharpton, who's been a part of his fair share of riots, is saying this could kind of be a problem for Democrats in November. Maybe we should back off a little bit here on all of this rioting. And he made a comparison. Now, I wouldn't say it's a particularly apt comparison in a lot of meaningful ways, but he made a comparison that is totally unacceptable on MSNBC. And instantly, Mika Brzezinski starts freaking out that he made this comparison. Ready?
How do the Democrats, how do all of us on that side say January 6th was wrong if you can have the same pictures going on college campuses?
Good Lord, don't make a parallel with January 6th.
You lose the moral high ground.
That has happened, though.
Okay,
that has happened.
Just so we know what's going on here.
So Joe Scarborough just sided with his minister over his wife. Did you hear that? He goes, that has happened, though. That is true. That has happened. And Mika, Mrs. Scarborough, she's sitting there going, no, don't make that comparison. They're panicking about this. Panicking about it. And it reminded me of a piece I saw in the Washington Post earlier this week because Donald Trump actually invoked January 6th during one of his many court statements this week. He mentioned January 6th as well. And here's the way that Washington Post covered it. This was April 30th, so 2 days ago. This is how they covered it. And it is a completely dishonest piece of writing. I'll tell you up front. But the headline is, Trump compares campus protests to deadly January 6th attack, broadens offer to pardon Capitol rioters. So immediately, when you hear the phrase deadly January 6th attack, you know where this piece is going. And you know how little truth is going to be imparted in it. Immediately. Because if you're saying January 6th was deadly, well, yeah, sure, to Trump supporters. The only people who died on January 6th were Trump supporters. The only people. Ashley Babbitt was shot in the neck inside the United States Capitol. Deadly January 6th attack. Dateline New York, presumptive Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump compared the current wave of encampments and civil disobedience on college campuses to the deadly riot by his supporters at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. He suggested Tuesday to reporters that students protesting Israel's war in Gaza should face punishments similar to those meted out to his supporters who were prosecuted in the January 6 attack. Oh, he's pointing to the selective prosecution of the United States federal government? How awful of him. How awful for him to point that out. And if you were a journalist, you would you'd actually be highlighting this. You wouldn't need Trump to point it out to you to highlight that detail. They go on. And in a separate interview, he expanded a pledge to pardon January 6 defendants by saying he would consider clemency for all of them. Trump addressed the campus protests while speaking to reporters in the hall outside the courtroom here, where he is standing trial on charges of falsifying business records in a hush money scheme before the 2016 election. They don't point out that Alvin Bragg has not actually laid out the crime that Trump is alleged to have violated. That's not a part of the court proceeding, which continues today. He and other Republicans have seized on the campus unrest to exploit fissures within the Democratic coalition over Israel's war in Gaza and portray President Biden as losing control of the situation. To portray Biden. Look, Republicans, by and large, are really not capable of messaging anything. The reason people think Biden is losing control of the situation is because Biden has lost control of the situation. And if he's done anything, he's inflamed it. The Post continues, on campuses across the country, students and other demonstrators have set up tent encampments, barricaded themselves in buildings, and defied police orders, leading to arrests and some police use of tear gas. No deaths have been reported. By contrast, many Trump supporters on January 6th violently assaulted police officers and ransacked the Capitol, leading to 5 deaths and hundreds of injuries. Once again, this is the Washington Post. Just to be clear, it's supposed to be the paper of record for Washington, D.C. The real paper of record for D.C. is the Washington Times, not the Post. The Post is lying to you here, lying by omission. The deaths, all Trump supporters. They don't even mention it. Trump, though, drew a blanket equivalency, arguing that college protesters should face consequences akin to the more than 1,000 prosecutions of January 6 rioters. Let's start with any consequences. How about that? How about literally any consequence whatsoever? He added that he doubted that would happen, expanding on his allegations of unfairness in the legal system, which are core to his defense in this trial and the 3 other criminal cases against him. Are they? Are they core to his defense? You might mention that he's gagged from bringing them up. If they're core to his defense, you as a news outlet would probably elaborate that he's not even allowed to mention them inside of that courtroom. Because the judge, Merchan, has gagged him from talking about how unfair the criminal system is against him, specifically as it relates to the Justice Department's involvement in that case. He's not allowed to mention that. Matthew Colangelo, the number 3 in the Justice Department, is now the lead prosecutor in the case against him in New York. How did that happen? Sorry, Trump can't mention it. He's gagged. So is his entire presidential campaign. Trump said, I wonder if what's going to happen to them will be anything comparable to what happened to J6, because they're doing a lot of destruction, a lot of damages, a lot of people getting hurt very badly, Trump said. Exaggerating the toll of the campus protests and using a shorthand term for January 6th that was popularized by defendants, lawyers, and families in the MAGA movement. So they're upset that he's even using a phrase like J6. And do people really need that explained to them? Like, do you really need to give them like the context clues are there? He's talking about January 6th. J6, okay. I wonder if there's going to be the same kind of treatment they gave J6, Trump said. Let's see how that all works out. I think I can give you the answer right now. And that's why people have lost faith in our court system, he said, correctly. The Biden campaign, the Washington Post gloats, criticized Trump's remarks. Quote, in his own words, he is promising to rule as a dictator on day one, use the military against the American people, punish those who stand against him, condone violence done on his behalf, and put his own revenge and retribution ahead of what is best for America, lied Biden-Harris 2024 spokesperson. They love this phrase, spokesperson. It's a spokesman, James Singer, unless it's actually a woman. I don't know. You can never tell these days. Bottom line, Trump is a danger to the Constitution and a threat to our democracy, they said, as they try and put him in prison, as they try and put their top political opponent in prison. In his remarks Tuesday, Trump also repeated a false comparison between the campus protests and the 2017 march in Charlottesville by neo-Nazis and white supremacists, one of whom killed a counter-protester with his car. Quote, Charlottesville is peanuts compared to what you're looking at now, Trump said. At the time, Trump defended the marchers as including, quote, very fine people on both sides. Oh, Oh, my God. Everything. Does this piece even have an editor? Did anyone even look at it? These are lies stacked upon lies. So they flatly refer to his comparison of people chanting about Jews in Charlottesville. He says Trump made the moral case when he says that's peanuts. The anti-Semitism you saw, those people chanting, the Jews will not replace us. That stuff, that's peanuts compared to just the anti-Semitism that's happening all over the country now, and Joe Biden has stoked it. Biden made it a centerpiece of his campaign that I ran because of Charlottesville. What, to try and make it worse? That was your goal? Because mission accomplished, if that's the case. So Trump said that was peanuts compared to what we're dealing with now. He's right about that. And then the Post lies about what Trump said. They add the, what do we call this? We call it the Charlottesville hoax, right? That's why we call it the Charlottesville hoax, because the media ran with this whole thing. Trump said that the neo-Nazis were fine people. No, he didn't, you sacks of utter crap. Not for a moment. Not for a moment. In fact, let me go back to 2019. Here's a video clip of Jake Tapper on CNN, no friend of Trump's, saying, let's be cautious here. He didn't say that neo-Nazis and white supremacists are fine people. Those words were not coming out of Trump's mouth.
Now, elsewhere in those remarks, the president did condemn neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So he's not saying that the neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people.
He's not saying that. Well, you should probably check in with your buddies at the Washington Post, Jake Tapper, because they're literally lying to their audience this week on this subject and a whole bunch of other subjects. So let me see. Let me tell you who the reporter is on this piece, if we can call him that. Isaac Arnsdorf. Isaac Arnsdorf is not a reporter. He's a hatchet man for the left. And this is just a dumpster fire of writing that apparently had no editor, or if it did, also a hatchet man for the left. Just a total disgrace, this whole thing. And in part for the course. And so it's funny, though, that they're like, he can't compare this to January 6th. How can you compare what's happening on these campuses to January 6th? Well, I don't know. Take it up with the Reverend Al.
How do the Democrats, how do all of us on that side say January 6th was wrong if you can have the same pictures going on college campuses?
Lord,
So pretty great. I told you earlier that right after court, Trump's visiting with the cops and the fire department. Apparently, he brought a bunch of pizzas with him. And, you know, it's amazing because I checked a brief check on X a moment ago. And there's lefties raging about this. Like, oh, he didn't bring enough. He's only holding 2 pizzas in his hands. Yeah, his campaign brought the rest. Well, you guys are stupid. And then meanwhile, a bunch of other people, Trump supporters in the comments, all pointing out, like, God, that guy's got an unbelievable spirit. He spends all day in court, and then he heads off to deliver pizzas to the fire department. Pretty cool. Anyway, the left is raging again. You know, Trump was in Wisconsin yesterday, and he did a bunch of mocking of Joe Biden, including Biden's decision to read the word pause off the teleprompter.
But isn't it nice to have a president who doesn't need a teleprompter? Not that he can read it anyway. He can't read it.
Remember the teleprompter thing? It was such a big thing with Obama. Remember the teleprompter? Obama needs the teleprompter. Biden needs it.
Now think if I read my teleprompter and I'm going, well, let's see, because of the weakness in the economy, I'd like to apologize. Pause. 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 What was that? That's unbelievable. Pause. You know, I was watching it. I said, that was weird. They actually don't have pause in my teleprompter, you know? They have a blank space. That's like you see. If there's a response. If there's no response, you just keep going. You don't have pause.
You don't have pause. You don't have pause. It's pretty funny. So I love when they have hecklers. All these Biden speeches have hecklers these days. And Biden's just staring blankly at them, drooling on himself. He doesn't know what to do. Trump had a heckler yesterday, and it sounded like this.
All right. Thank you. Go home to mom, right? Go home to your mom.
Take his coat. Get him out of here. Up next, the great one, Mark Levin, right here on WMAL. Talk to you tomorrow.